Imagine a city where you can't buy a Big Mac, an iPhone from an official store, or even a Boeing airplane. Yet, it's the nose job capital of the world, with surgery rates 7 times higher than in the United States. Walk down any street in Tehran and you'll see them. Thousands of young people wearing small white bandages across their noses like a badge of honor. But this isn't just about vanity. It's the ultimate economic survival hack. In a country where the currency is melting like an ice cream cone in the Sahara, and a house is an impossible dream for most, your face becomes the only asset you can still control and upgrade. This is the beauty of despair, a surreal byproduct of the heaviest economic siege in modern history. But the contradictions don't stop at the surface. When you hop into a car using Snap, Iran's version of Uber, you aren't just getting a ride. You're likely getting a lecture in high-level physics or classical philosophy. Because of a decades-long economic stranglehold, the job market for the elite has simply evaporated, leaving PhD holders and aerospace engineers to navigate Tehran's chaotic gridlock just to put food on the table. How did a nation with the world's second-largest gas reserves and a history of imperial glory end up in this dystopian reality? This is the Iranian paradox, a deep dive into a world where brilliant minds are trapped in a financial vacuum, and where survival means breaking every rule in the global economic textbook. Chapter 1: The Melting Wallet. Think about your bank account for a second. If you're an American, your dollar is a rock. It is the bedrock of the global economy, stable, predictable, and trusted from New York to Tokyo. But in Iran, the national currency, the rial, isn't a rock. It's an ice cream cone in the middle of the Sahara Desert. If you don't spend it the very moment you earn it, it simply evaporates. To understand the sheer scale of this madness, imagine waking up tomorrow morning to find that your $50,000 savings, which could have bought you a brand new Ford F-150 yesterday, can now barely afford a used, rusty bicycle. This isn't a hypothetical nightmare or a scene from a dystopian movie. It's the Tuesday morning reality for millions of Iranians. This hyperinflation has turned every citizen, from the street vendor to the grandmother buying groceries, into an accidental math genius who is constantly losing a race against time. But to truly grasp how far the rial has fallen, we have to look back. In the 1970s, the rial was one of the strongest currencies in the world, trading at around 70 rials to $1. Today, that same dollar can fetch over 600,000 rials on the open market. That is not just a dip. That is a total annihilation of value. It has created a society where the official currency has so many zeros, it's become practically unreadable. To cope, the Iranian people have invented their own shadow system of language. The government prints rials, but the streets speak toman. 1 toman is 10 rials. It sounds simple, but when you're dealing with millions and billions, you're constantly deleting and adding zeros in your head just to buy a simple loaf of bread. It's a never-ending, exhausting game of financial Tetris that drains your soul before lunch. Imagine going to a local diner in Ohio, but instead of a printed menu, the waiter gives you a chalkboard where the prices are erased and rewritten every hour. In Tehran, restaurants have stopped printing prices altogether. You order your food, and you don't know the final cost until the moment you swipe your card, because the price of meat might have jumped while you were eating your appetizer. This leads to a phenomenon that keeps global economists awake at night. Even as the currency loses its soul, the luxury malls in North Tehran are still packed with people buying designer watches, high-end electronics, and Persian rugs. To an outsider, It looks like a boom, but it's actually a panic. Holding on to cash in Iran is like holding a live grenade with the pin pulled out. You have to get rid of it. People aren't spending money because they're rich or greedy. They're dumping it. They are in a frantic race to trade their dying paper for anything physical. Gold, jewelry, or even a spare set of car tires stacked in their living room, before the value vanishes by sunset. In the US, we buy a set of tires when our car needs them. In Iran, you buy them as a savings account because you know those rubber tires will hold their value far better than the paper in your wallet. This psychological toll is devastating. It destroys the very idea of a future. How do you save for a child's college education? How do you plan for retirement when the pension you've worked 40 years for can now barely cover a week's worth of groceries? The middle class is being systematically erased, pushed into a survivalist mindset where every day is a battle of arithmetic. It creates a society of accidental gamblers, where everyone is forced to speculate on the price of gold or foreign currency just to stay afloat. The finish line moves every single day, and the clock never stops ticking. In Iran, the only way to save your wealth is to get rid of your money as fast as humanly possible, turning every shopping trip into a desperate act of preservation. This is a world where the math is broken, the logic is gone, and the only thing that's certain is that tomorrow, everything will be more expensive than it was today. Chapter 2: The Oxygen Tank, Sanctions, and the Shadow Finance. In the halls of power in Washington, D.C., they are called maximum pressure campaigns. But on the ground in Iran, they are felt as a slow, deliberate strangulation. Imagine a hospital patient connected to an oxygen tank, only to have the valve slowly turned, notch by notch, until every breath becomes a battle. This is the reality of life under global sanctions. For over 40 years, the international community, led by the United States, has attempted to cut Iran off from the global financial nervous system. The most lethal weapon in this silent war isn't a missile or a drone. It's the disconnection from SWIFT, the global messaging network that allows money to move across borders. Without SWIFT, a nation becomes a financial island, unable to sell its products or pay for essential medicines. It's an economic vacuum designed to collapse the state from within. However, when you push a nation of 85 million people into a corner, they don't just give up. They build a shadow world. To survive, Iran has developed one of the most sophisticated, clandestine financial networks the world has ever seen. Think of it as a dark web for physical money. Since they can't use banks, they use the ancient system of hawala. It's built entirely on trust and a network of brokers spread across Dubai, Istanbul, and Hong Kong. If a merchant in Tehran needs to buy industrial equipment from Germany, he doesn't send a wire transfer. Instead, he hands cash to a local broker in a back office. That broker calls a partner in Dubai, who then instructs another contact in Europe to pay the German supplier in euros. No money actually crosses the Iranian border. No digital footprint is left for the US Treasury to track. It's a ghost system, operating in the blind spots of global regulation, moving billions of dollars every year in total silence. But this oxygen tank comes with a devastating price. Because these transactions are illegal and high risk, the middlemen charge massive fees, sometimes up to 20 or 30%. This sanction tax is invisible to the outside world, but it's baked into the price of every bottle of baby formula and every spare part for a car in Iran. It creates a breeding ground for systemic corruption, where those with the right connections to these shadow networks become billionaires overnight, while the average citizen pays the ultimate price for resistance. The elite, the so-called Agazadeh, live in luxury villas fueled by this underground trade, while the working class watches their purchasing power vanish into the pockets of shadow brokers. It is a system of survival that has effectively turned the entire Iranian economy into a giant, high-stakes game of money laundering, where the rules are written in blood and the house always wins. Chapter 3: The Ghost Fleet and the World's Cheapest Fuel. In the dead of night, in the choppy waters of the Persian Gulf, something eerie is happening. If you were to look at a global maritime tracking map, this patch of ocean would look empty. But if you were standing on the deck of a nearby vessel, you would see the massive, hulking silhouettes of oil tankers, the size of skyscrapers, moving silently through the waves. These are the dark ships, the central players in what intelligence agencies call the Ghost Fleet. To the digital world, they don't exist. Their transponders are switched off, their GPS signals are dead, and their names have been painted over with fresh, black soot. This is a high-stakes, multi-billion-dollar game of cat and mouse played out across the world's oceans, and for the Iranian economy, it is the only thing keeping the lights on. The Ghost Fleet is a collection of hundreds of aging rust bucket tankers that operate in a legal gray zone. Their mission is simple, but incredibly dangerous. Get Iranian oil to market without triggering the tripwires of US sanctions. To do this, they engage in a maneuver called a ship-to-ship transfer. Two massive tankers, often decades past their expiration date, tether themselves together in the open sea, far from any coastline. Thousands of tons of crude oil are pumped from one to the other under the cover of darkness. It's a delicate, terrifying operation where a single spark or a minor leak could trigger an environmental catastrophe. Once the oil is transferred, the receiving ship changes its flags, alters its digital identity, and sells the cargo as Malaysian or Omani crude. It is a massive, global-scale laundering operation that turns blood gold into the hard currency Iran needs to survive. But while the Ghost Fleet battles the waves and international law abroad, back on land, this abundance of oil creates one of the most jarring economic paradoxes you will ever witness. In the United States, we watch the gas prices at the pump with anxiety, hoping they don't climb another 10 cents. In Iran, gas is so cheap, it feels almost free. Because the government heavily subsidizes fuel to prevent social unrest, you can fill up a 30-gallon tank for the price of a cheap cup of coffee in New York. In fact, in many parts of the country, a gallon of gasoline costs significantly less than a bottle of imported mineral water. It is a world where it is cheaper to drive 100 miles than it is to stay hydrated. However, this gift of cheap fuel is actually a ticking time bomb. Because gas is so undervalued, it is smuggled out of the country by the millions of gallons every single day, carried on the backs of mules through rugged mountains, or in small wooden boats to neighboring countries where it can be sold for 10 times the price. The Iranian government is effectively burning billions of dollars every year just to keep the population from rioting at the pumps. It is a desperate, unsustainable trade-off. They are forced to run a high-tech, clandestine navy to sell their oil to the world, while at home, they sell that same oil for pennies, bleeding the national treasury dry just to maintain a fragile, shivering peace. The ghost fleet might be keeping the country's heart beating, but the cheap fuel at the pump is a slow-motion hemorrhage that the economy simply cannot survive forever. Chapter 4: The Titan's Strength. If you think Iran is just a giant gas station with a flag, you are missing the most impressive and perhaps most frustrating part of their survival story. Most Americans view a sanctioned country as a place where everything stops, where the factories rust and the shelves go empty. But Iran has spent the last 40 years turning itself into a self-sufficient fortress built on the ruins of international trade. It is a nation that has learned to build what it cannot buy, creating a bizarre Frankenstein version of industrial success. Despite being cut off from global supply chains, Iran remains the largest automaker in the Middle East. Yes, you heard that right. In the heart of Tehran, a company called Iran Khodro operates massive assembly lines that churn out over 1 million vehicles a year. Think about that for a second. While Detroit struggled during the 2008 crash, and while global chip shortages crippled modern manufacturers, Iran was reverse engineering Peugeots and Renaults, making their own parts and keeping their nation on wheels. It's an industrial life hack on a national scale. They aren't the most beautiful or the most advanced cars. In fact, many are based on designs from the 1980s, but they move. They forge their own steel, standing as one of the top 10 steel producers on the planet, outperforming many European nations. They have built an entire industrial ecosystem that doesn't need the West to survive. It is a titan in chains, stubbornly swinging its hammer in the dark, proving that if you isolate a civilization long enough, it will simply learn to build its own world. But the titan doesn't just work with fire and iron. It also dominates the earth. Far from the smog of the car factories lie the purple fields of Khorasan. This is the home of red gold, saffron. Most people don't realize that nearly 90% of the world's saffron comes from Iran. It is the most expensive spice on earth, worth more than its weight in gold, requiring the delicate hand harvesting of thousands of flowers just to produce a single ounce. But here is the shocker. If you walk into a high-end grocery store in New York or Los Angeles, you will likely see saffron labeled as product of Spain or product of Dubai. Because of the sanctions we discussed, Iranian farmers are the victims of a global identity heist. Their world-class saffron is smuggled out in bulk, repackaged in other countries, and sold to you at a 500% markup. The same story repeats with pistachios. For decades, there has been a quiet, bitter, agricultural Cold War between the Central Valley of California and the orchards of Kerman in Iran. They are the two superpowers of the nut world, fighting for global dominance. When Iranian pistachios are hit with tariffs, California wins. When a drought hits the West Coast, Iran floods the market. It is a bizarre reality where the spice in your kitchen and the nuts on your table are pawns in a geopolitical chess game. Iran has managed to stay relevant not by being a part of the global system, but by becoming its shadow. They are the unseen provider, a factory and a farm that the world officially ignores, but secretly relies on to keep the luxury markets of the West running. It is a survival story built on sweat, secrecy, and a refusal to stay down. Chapter 5: The Shadows of Power.
If you think a country under total global isolation would be a place of shared sacrifice, you couldn't be more wrong. While the average Iranian family is watching their life savings evaporate, a different world exists just a few miles away in the hills of North Tehran. Here, the air is thinner, the villas are larger, and the silence is broken by a sound that shouldn't exist in a sanctioned nation: the high-pitched, mechanical scream of a Porsche 911 engine. For a few years, Tehran actually had one of the highest concentrations of luxury German cars in the entire Middle East. It is a staggering slap in the face to a population struggling to buy imported medicine. You have to ask yourself, in a country where the banking system is frozen and the world is watching every dollar, how does a 24-year-old kid drive a $250,000 supercar? The answer lies in a shadowy, multi-billion-dollar labyrinth known as the boneyards. To an American, the word foundation or charity usually implies a non-profit that helps the needy. In Iran, the boneyards are something else entirely. They are massive, opaque mega-conglomerates that control up to 30% of the entire national economy, from hotels and mines to soft drinks and shipping lines. These organizations are the ultimate economic black holes. They answer to no one except the highest religious authorities. They pay zero taxes. They have no transparent accounting. They are, in essence, the private slush funds of the elite. While the small business owner is crushed by regulations and inflation, the boneyards and their well-connected children, the Agazadeh or the born rich, operate above the law, profiting from the very sanctions that are killing the middle class. They are the gatekeepers of the shadow economy, the ones who decide who gets to breathe and who gets to starve. But perhaps the most bizarre symptom of this broken system is the Tehran Stock Exchange. If you looked at the charts during the height of the most brutal economic pressure, you would see something that looks like a miracle. While the real economy was shrinking, the stock market was exploding to record highs. It seemed to defy the laws of gravity. But it wasn't a sign of health. It was a sign of absolute panic. When your currency is dying, you don't buy stocks because you believe in a company's future. You buy them because you are desperate to put your money into anything other than the rial. It is a market of ghosts, a speculative bubble fueled by the desperation of the masses and the manipulation of the elite. It is, quite literally, a party on the deck of the Titanic. The music is loud, the champagne, smuggled of course, is flowing, and the jewelry is dazzling. The 1% of Iran are not just surviving the sanctions, they are thriving on them, turning the misery of 80 million people into personal empires of gold and concrete. They live in a bubble of luxury, shielded by their proximity to power, while the iceberg of economic reality looms just ahead in the dark. This is the dark heart of the Iranian paradox. A system that preaches resistance and sacrifice to the poor, while the powerful buy their way out of the consequences. And as we are about to see, when the party on the deck eventually runs out of luck, it's the people in the lower cabins who pay the ultimate, most personal price of all. As the roar of the Porsches in North Tehran fades into the distance, a heavy, suffocating silence settles over the rest of the city. To truly understand the cost of this economic war, you have to leave the luxury malls and the government buildings behind. You have to walk down the narrow side streets, past the shadows of a history that once shook the world. Long before the sanctions, long before the oil, and long before the modern borders were drawn, this land was the heart of the Persian Empire. It was the cradle of civilization, the birthplace of Cyrus the Great, and the majestic hub of the Silk Road. For centuries, Persia wasn't just a country. It was a beacon of science, art, and administrative genius that influenced the world from the Mediterranean to the Indus River. It is a legacy of gold,
marble, and poetry. But today, if you look closely at the brick walls in the back alleys of Tehran, you won't see Persian calligraphy celebrating the soul. Instead, you see the desperate ink of survival. In a quiet corner of the capital, near the city's major hospitals, there is a place known to locals as Kidney Street. This is perhaps the darkest chapter of the Iranian paradox. You see, while the rest of the world treats organ sales as a grisly underground crime, Iran is the only nation on earth where selling your kidney is completely legal and regulated by the state. It was a system designed to eliminate wait lists for transplants. But in an economy strangled by isolation, it has morphed into a marketplace of last resort. It is where the resistance economy meets the limits of human endurance. When the currency fails, when the job market vanishes, and when the casing the ghost fleet or driving for SNAP isn't enough to pay the debt, people begin to view their own bodies as their final liquid asset. This is the ultimate, heartbreaking price of the deadlock between a defiant regime and a relentless global pressure campaign. It is a tragedy of wasted potential. We are talking about a nation that can launch satellites into orbit, forge high-grade steel, and maintain a sophisticated industrial machine against all odds. Yet, that same nation has created a reality where a young father, an educated engineer, or a bright-eyed student feels forced to walk up to a wall and write their Group O-positive blood type in a black marker. They aren't selling their organs to get rich. They are doing it to pay a wedding dowry, to cover a parent's medical bills, or simply to stop the landlord from throwing their belongings onto the street. It is the most intimate form of sanction tax imaginable, a tax paid in flesh and blood. As we look toward the future, the question isn't just about whether the oil will keep flowing or if the nuclear deals will be signed. The real question is, what happens to the soul of a civilization when it is kept in a pressure cooker for too long? Iran is a country of 85 million people who are caught between the glory of their past and the impossibility of their present. They are a people who have learned to breathe underwater, to trade in shadows, and to find beauty in the middle of despair. But the human spirit, much like the rial, can only be stretched so far before it begins to break. The world watches the headlines, the drone footage, and the geopolitical chess moves. But if you want to know the truth about the economy of Iran, don't look at the GDP charts or the speeches in Washington. Just look at those walls in Tehran. Because on the walls of Tehran, there are phone numbers written in marker. They aren't for pizza or dates. They are for kidneys. Group O-positive, healthy, desperate. This is the ultimate price of the resistance economy. A country that can build missiles and cars, but forces its youth to sell their bodies just to stay afloat. The Titan may still be standing, and the Ghost Fleet may still be sailing, but the cost of the voyage has become more than any nation should ever have to pay.